Hey, hello everybody this morning, and thank you for joining our bite-sized webinar about saveBOARD, betterBRACE rigid air barrier. My name is Paula Wallace and I'm the specification manager here at saveBOARD. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. In the name of staying focused and keeping to time, chat is off, but you can submit reactions. And also, please direct any questions through your Q&A tab. We've got Paul Charteris, CEO and founder of saveBOARD, who is behind the scenes today answering your questions. So fire them away. We've got the best person on hand to be able to help you. So today's agenda, first up, we are going to look at what goes into saveBOARD, our raw materials. And then we will look at how it's made. And then we're just going to focus on the bits that you need to know, being planet, performance, and finishing up with price. So what goes into saveBOARD? Whole lot of rubbish, heaps and heaps of rubbish. So we have a recipe of soft plastic, and that comes from construction sites, and soft plastics like these that are collected by you and returned to the supermarket. We also use composite food and beverage cartons like these, commonly known as Tetra Pak, and also product offcuts, and end-of-life product is returned to us. So what I'm going to show you next is what we do with these raw materials. This is a short video and I'm going to talk you through it. So we weigh the raw materials like a recipe. What we've got going on here is returned construction waste, and you will recognise that as a pallet wrap around the timber. So that gets then thrown into a ginormous shredder and shredded into small particles, which are then fed through a hopper and measured out into this 100mm fluffy bed of raw material. And that 100mm bed will be compressed and heated so the plastic melts. So we will heat and compress, heat, compress, release, heat, release for about 5 minutes for a betterBRACE board. Last stage is cooling, and out comes a really high density 10mm board. betterBRACE is then sprayed and stenciled to identify on site. So I'm just going to pause here because you can see a real mottled effect there as this board goes up. We get a lot of alarm on site thinking that it is mold. There's documentation to disperse that alarm. What it is basically the colour and bits and pieces from our raw materials. It bleeds into the fiberglass. So it's not mold, all is well, it's just colour. So we've looked at how our product is made, and now we're going to talk about the juicy bits: planet, performance, and price. So first up is planet, and we will address waste diversion, circularity, product stewardship, and carbon. So waste diversion. The weight of our board is the amount of waste that is diverted from landfill. There's nothing else added to the board. There's no glue, there's no resin, there's no additives. The plastic melts and binds all the other product together. So the betterBRACE rigid air barrier board weighs 24.5 kilos. That means 24.5 kilos has been diverted from landfill. To give you an idea of how much that is, 400 of these into one board. 1,500 pieces of those bits of plastic that you take to the supermarket. So as you can see, the waste diversion per board is huge. I have a fun fact because I do love a fun fact. Why is my fun fact not coming up? Oh, hang on, please hold. There we go. So 150 metre square, small, maybe transportable home, perhaps a retirement villa, would divert a total of 1,245 kgs of waste from landfill. Very cool. I know, love that reaction. Next, we're going to talk about circularity. And because we're talking about rigid air barrier today, I'm using an example of circularity that can be implemented with this product, being the collection and recycling of soft plastic waste from site. That is then used in our recipe to manufacture rigid air barrier that is returned and used within that project. The plastics here are an example of what we can take from site. So they can be a little bit dirty, not filthy. Dusty's fine. Coloured plastic is fine. A product that's got labels attached to it, maybe packing slips, but no debris. So chunks of steel and timber. Thinking back to the video we just saw with the shredder, plays havoc, stops the plant. Keep the bits of wood out. We can also take the client waste, so the owner of the building that you are working on, we could take their waste, and so that their soft plastics and maybe marketing materials would be put into the board that would then be used within their own building that they own. Product stewardship. So we run a program where we take offcuts and end-of-life product. There's no cost for us to do that, but the freight to get it from you to us, is at your cost. And we do help you with the logistics of that. So point to note that full sheets, when they are being returned at end of life, just need to be cut into smaller pieces so that our shredder can manage that. Only about 1200 by 300 is fine. So this here is our customer from Elevate Homes. And a few weeks ago, they brought us their offcuts and their soft plastic. And we were manufacturing board for the August order. And so all of that went in, and then the next day, new rigid air barrier sheets went back to Elevate Homes to be used on the home that they were building this month. Oh, next, carbon, my favourite. We're very proud of these numbers, and we do hope that they would make a really big impact on the projects that you're working on as well. Our environmental product declaration is in right now for verification, and these numbers reflect the global warming potential from a 1 to 3, being raw materials, manufacture and distribution. So our EPD will be finalised in the coming weeks, and you can see that betterBRACE is a minus 5.51 kilos of carbon per metre square. And so next up, we're going to look at how that compares with other traditional rigid air barriers in the market. So at minus 5.51, if you compare betterBRACE against a ply-based rigid air barrier, the reduction is the saving reduction, 5.5 kilos of carbon a metre square. If you are looking at a cement-based rigid air barrier against betterBRACE, whopping 10.92 kilos of carbon per metre square. So our next webinar focuses solely on carbon, and if you're keen to know more about this, join us then, and we will also be giving you examples of the impact that these numbers have across a project. So we've looked at planet and And now we're going to move on to performance of betterBRACE. So betterBRACE has the core of shredded plastic and composite packaging. The face is fiberglass and the back is a recycled paper. Fix at 600 centres unless you are working on an extra high wind zone, and that is 400. Fire group is 3, so up to 10 metres, and exposure is 90 days. Install is to wrap with a synthetic wall wrap, such as Thermocraft Watergate Plus. If you are taping the joints and openings, you can use industry standard tapes. You don't need a system only tape. It has very high performance bracing, and we are going to look at that in a little bit more detail. Sheet sizes are noted there, standard sheet sizes. But what I do want to point out is that we custom cut to length. So there's no additional cost for that. It's just a minimum order of 70 sheets. And we can go up to 6 metres on a custom cut length. betterBRACE rigid air barrier can be specified on master spec 4171 SB. I think there's another fun fact coming up. Yes. So 150, back to our house. The carbon saving, if you were comparing it against a cement-based rigid air barrier, 1,650 kgs. If you were comparing it against ply-based rigid air barrier, 750 kgs, still awesomely impressive, even if I say so myself. So we touched on bracing. This is a comparison of how betterBRACE performs. So rigid air barrier external, one side only, BU 143-154. And that's coming in about the same as if you had a brace line on the interior, structural ply on the exterior, coming in at 150 and 150. So really high performance bracing, and we have all the correct bits of paper that you will need. Just ask us and we can send that to you. Bracing, what's next? Right, so we've done planet, we've done performance, now we're going on to price. So we hear really often that everyone definitely wants sustainable, but they don't when it starts to cost more. In fact, if we had $1 for every time we heard that, I wouldn't need to sell any board. However, I have good news. So what we've done here, this is a comparison based, and it will vary depending on your regional trade rates, but installed cost, 10mm betterBRACE wrapped with your Watergate Plus starting point. That is the most cost effective. betterBRACE, if you are taping with your industry standard tapes, that comes in next, followed by 6mm cement board with industry standard tapes. Then an 8mm OSB. Next, 7mm plywood based rigid air barrier with system specified tape, and then a 10mm gypsum betterBRACE with a system required tape. Okay, so there or thereabouts, that's the lineup. So we've done planet, we've done performance, we've done price, I'm on time, and we are, boom, onto questions and answers. So if you've got any questions, pop them in there now. Just a reminder that we do have our next webinar coming up in about 2 to 3 weeks, and the invitation I will send out soon. If you would like to join us, please do, and I will just pop in and see if there are any questions that we would like to be answered. No questions, come on, you must have. But that's okay. We must have covered it well. But hey, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you. Hang on, wait, Greg has a question. What are the cost and carbon comparisons with XYZ. So you will see, I will send you those slides, Greg, and we will be able to put that either in the chat or I will send that to you. I've got your email from when you registered. Alrighty. Hey, thanks team very much for coming, and we will see you again soon.